now what? I got my exciting spouse, partner, lover, greater, better me with me today, Liz. Welcome.
Thanks. So we're here to talk about our marriage today.
Why not? So let's go back.
It's been a ride. It's been a ride.
We've 15 years, almost 16 now.
Well, 15 and a half, but
all right.
Who's counting?
And Jimmy Watley, he told me he'd shoot me this morning if we ever. I said, well, I'm glad you're on her team, Jimmy.
Yeah, I think we're a good match.
I've always thought we've been a good match.
We've been a good match.
As soon as you fell in line with what I wanted you to do.
Yes. As soon as I lived straight up to your expectations, we're
still working on that, folks. We're still working on it.
We were good to go then.
Right. I was at least happier.
Yeah, so I think for everyone in the beginning, like you've said many times, we have so many expectations on each other. We just put them straight on each other. And that's, obviously probably the most common thing. People have expectations about money from their partner, from sex. They have expectations about just all around what you're going to do for me, how you were supposed to help my life by marrying you. And I think, so I was young. I had just turned 21. I was only 21 for a month, less than a month when we got married. And you were 30.
Old man.
So
give me a high five out there.
And not only that, but you had been on your own since you were 17?
Right.
Making money, working, living. You had lived a lot of life by the time I came in your picture.
Well, it's so interesting because, like we just said that right there, I was already living. I got kicked out of my house at 17. You lived with your parents all the way till we got married. I lived in Miami, big city. You lived in the country. You had both parents at the house the whole time. I did not. I
would say I lived a somewhat sheltered life, not sheltered, but protected. I didn't have a lot of experience in a lot of areas that you did.
Well, and that was kind of the point is I was 30 and, so many guys are out there, oh, he married younger. That's great. But on the scale of your experiences weren't a lot. So there was a lot of struggle just between experiences alone.
I mean, you didn't marry me because I was, 8.5 years younger than you. I mean, that's not why you married. You did not.
Is that not why?
No.
I thought that was like the top on my list.
No, that's not it at all.
What was the top on your list for me?
You were in love with me.
Still am. What was on the top for me? It was my plaid pants.
I mean,
I went from plaid pants to plaid shirts.
I was just going to say that. It was those bell-bottom plaid pants you got from Goodwill. But it is part of that. I mean, you just were really different than other people. And even though I personally am not a big out-of-the-box person, I tend to gravitate towards people that are big thinker, out-of-the-box people because I like different. And I like that you were different. And you were really passionate, and I'm passionate. So we have that. We have a lot of that kind of stuff in common. We're both pretty laid-back personalities. We don't worry about a whole bunch of stuff. And looking back, I don't know if I knew that's why I married you, but I can tell you that's incredibly important to me now, that whoever I'm with is going to be not a big worrier.
But, it is interesting because the expectation was really big, but now personally, like, worrying about things is really small. Isn't that strange how it was like, how could my expectations for you be so high? But then when it comes down to like bills or money or stuff like that, I don't really worry a lot. So
yeah, you don't have a lot of expectations in that area.
Isn't that strange how, the demand was so much for you, but like...
Well, I mean, marriage is not something that people went around teaching a whole bunch to kids, right, to teenagers, to early 20s. There's just not a lot of training. There's not a lot of... that's just not how kids get raised. I mean, the bottom line is people, the way they are raised in that belief system is going to determine when they get married what they're going to expect from the other person. I mean, if you would have asked 20-year-old Liz, what are you expecting out of Ben? Like, when you get married, what do you think he's going to provide for you? I would have had no answers. I would have been like, what are you talking about? What expectations? I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't even recognize what somebody was trying to ask me. Right. But once I got married, it was like, yeah, I did definitely. I had in my idea, what a husband was to a wife. I had that. And what's funny is we're always all thinking what that person's supposed to be for us. And, probably very little thinking, what about me for them? And it's not about doing or serving or things. I mean, it is that stuff. But I think more than any of that, it's being complete and confident in who we are. If I'm complete and confident who I am as a person and know myself, know my strengths, at least have an idea of my purpose and what I want to do, then when we come together, I mean, I don't need a whole bunch out of you. In fact, I can be more for you because I'm more founded in who I am, which is a really big, important thing, I think.
Noticing the expectations that we were putting that demand of the noticing of the expectations was one thing. But then I think it took years and years to come with the conclusion of grace that your behavior group or your mindset just does not fit that expectation. And that was the thing that took the years, right?
Yeah, figuring out, like you're saying, that they'll never be that thing.
Right. Who you are, one, and then who they are, It's very confusing because it's you pull tug of war game, trying to figure out.
Well, the other thing is, so you have that, hey, this is my personality trait over here. Why don't you have that? Well, right there, you've already decided that that one way was right and one way was wrong, right. Which is wrong. It's wrong to think my belief system is the correct one. In whatever area that is. It could be the house being picked up or clean. There's a right way, there's a wrong way. No, there's your opinion, and then there's other people's opinions. Financial. There's a billion different ways finances could be handled. There is not, your belief system is the right one. This one over here is the wrong one. No, that's not right. The right thing is to come together, to learn relationship and to communicate and say, what's going to work for us? Where can we come together and talk about and decide a financial plan for our family, for our household?
Well, 99.999% of the time, people opposites, right? So
yeah, it's gonna be real different.
So if you like saving, then probably that other person is going to want to spend or invest or stuff like that. And so, and this happens in every category. So if you think saving is the right way, your parents did it, they got to their retirement and stuff like that. You're like, see, look, I've got proven facts of how to do it. And then if I'm saying, hey, let's invest, let's take risk, let's spend, you're like, oh no, that's not what my parents did or I saw or I experienced. And because they retired and they were fine, then this is the right way.
Surely it's the rightest right.
It's the rightest right, right? And so then you're living out your parents' rightest right. You don't know that they had the conversation or what put them into that element. Case in point, just think about if your parents got an inheritance and that helped them boost, being able to pay for things. Well, now you're of 7 kids, your inheritance is probably going to be much smaller. So just to think that you're going to have all the same successes or benefits from what past people did does not declare that.
You're a whole new package. Right. You're a whole new couple and you're a whole new family. And that's what people need to understand is what's best and right for you guys together, communicating. And it's hard to communicate. It's hard to communicate all that with with each other because you don't exactly know what you're looking for. You don't exactly know what direction you're going. You don't know how many kids you're going to have, so it's a continual conversation. Hey, this is what we had talked about before, but things are changing. We need to re-talk about it, and that's just it, is even just learning how to communicate in a not offended way, and like take down the walls, stop being offended, because when you're in a fight, I remember we just used to try to talk, and it was so hard because, I'll admit, I would get offended, and you weren't even trying to fight. You were just trying to have a conversation. And I was like, what are you trying to say? You're basically trying to say I suck and I'm not good at this, and you were like, no, I'm trying to figure something out, a solution. And it's hard to talk about something when you're always so dang offended about everything. And it's also hard when you've got in your mind, my belief system is the rightest right, and I'm just not going to agree with him. And, switching a little bit, 7 years in our marriage, about halfway in from where we are now, was the hardest time in our marriage. That's when, I don't know if you agree with that, but that's how I feel. And that was, it's really hard when you are with someone and you're thinking, man, they're just it's never going to get better. It's kind of like you start losing hope. We're never going to learn how to communicate. They're never going to change. They're always going to think like that, and I'm always going to think like this. And, I just want to give people hope that that's not true. You do change, and you do, Joe McGee, I love what he said. You don't find a marriage, you build a marriage. So what do you do when you're stuck? Well, let's just take one step, put one foot in front of the other. Let's just start the conversation. Let's just move all our crap aside. Like, if you can, move those, set those belief systems down and just hear the other person. What are you trying to say? A lot of this is digging through not just belief systems from where we grew up, but like fear and trauma and hurt and PTSD. Kids have PTSD, and that's what I'm calling it. But hurt and trauma from being a kid in a really, really tough situation, like really poor. Living a life of poverty makes people feel different about money when they're adults,
Right. You said the 7th year was probably hardest. I think, for me, it was the first year was hard, and then it just escalated from there.
Yeah, it's where we
had a wonderful dating relationship, and then it was like when we got married, I turned into a different person, you turned into a different person, because it was...
Well, I think more you recognized who I actually was. You were like, oh crap, she's a kid.
Right.
That's what I remember you recognizing that. You were like, I thought I married an adult, but she's not.
Well, I remember going to your house and you'd have laundry in the corner, you'd have, your drawers full of stuff. Yeah. And I was like, I didn't recognize that. I'll be living in this thing, too.
Yeah. I'm joining with her mess.
Right. I think I was just like, oh, I just love this girl. She's so excited to me. We're going to get married, but I didn't realize what it would be like for me to live in your room.
Well, absolutely. We were absolutely in love. There's no denying we loved a whole bunch of things about each other, right. But we didn't know a whole bunch of things about each other yet, and you don't know what it's like to live with somebody and to be joined in that forever kind of way until you're joined in that forever commitment and you're in it and you're like, holy crap. And, for those first 7 years, I would tell you one of the hardest things for me, since you brought up the cleaning stuff, was, I never felt like I could ever measure up. And I would try. And I was like, I'll never be, cleaning and being a naturally picked up, clean. I'm a whole lot better than I used to be now. But that did not come natural to me because I'm a very laid back person. So I'm laid back in all the areas. In the house is, sometimes a mess. And I'm like, it's not that big of a deal, But, you were raised with
we cleaned all the time.
All the time.
All the time. We had lists all the time.
and your mom is really clean. She had you guys clean. She cleaned. She's just a very organized, clean person. So you basically married the opposite of that.
The opposite, like we said, 99.99%, right?
Yeah, and I felt that so like deep inside me all the time. I internalized that I will never be her. And a lot of times when we fought, that came out of my mouth.
It did.
I
and
will
it was
never
weird
be her.
to me because it like
you didn't even understand.
I was like, what? Yeah. I was
You're like, I don't care if you're her or not.
Right.
But I was like, but yes, you do. That's a belief system that you're operating from, is that why aren't you her? In your mind, your mom was the right way. That was the rightest right. That concept of clean and organized was your rightest right in that area. And I wasn't that. And I will never be that. I still am not, that level.
Right. I mean, you had a cleaning lady come to your house and help out and stuff like that. So again, we did have
Sometimes.
two different lives, but also it is behaviors. I mean,
My dad cleaned.
right.
My dad cleaned and cooked. And, that's another thing so that was my expectation of you. I came into marriage thinking that you would help clean and cook. Like that was just my expectation because that's what I saw.
Right.
And my dad didn't just do some of the cleaning. He did all the cleaning.
Right.
I mean, we didn't have a cleaning lady a lot of my life.
So when I'm yelling at you about cleaning, you're you're yelling at me.
What are you
why
doing?
aren't you cleaning?
I know. That's exactly right. That's what was going through my mind, And, and the problem with all that was we were operating from a mindset that we came from instead of saying, you know what? That was the past. We are a family. Let's decide what works best for us. What could we do? And sometimes down the road you got to a point where you would say, how can I help take the pressure off you? And that's what I was feeling. I was feeling so much pressure to be somebody that I wasn't, and it was making me crazy. And that's when in that 7th year in, like you said, it had been building. And that 7th year, I lost hope. And I was like, this marriage is over because I cannot be what in his mind I should be. And I couldn't handle that weight and that pressure, which I think probably you felt pressure and weight also in other areas, in your own, maybe more with money.
Well, that was right at the recession too, So yeah, I mean,
So
there was
we were crashing.
losses and things happening all over the place. I mean, I was trying to manage business, real estate. I mean,
and for me,
personal.
we had 3 very little kids.
Right.
I mean, I had a baby, I had a toddler, and I had just over a toddler. And looking back, that's for sure the hardest time of my life. And that was part of all that. It was part of the 3 kids financial pressure, 3 kids. The house was an absolute disaster all the time. And I could not keep up. Right. I could not take care of them, keep them alive. I was in survival mode every day.
And even to think about it, like we could talk about cleaning and say, oh, well, do this, do that, And I remember talking about, well, just schedule out an hour a day.
All the time.
Like we did all these different, ideas and stuff like that of, oh, well, you should do this. Well, you should do that. And then you're like, I can't tell the kids, hey, this is planned out time because the kids don't understand planned out time. No.
And you'd come to me with all these ideas and I would be like, inside I'd be like, oh my God, these are never going to work. like you had... In my mind, I would always be thinking, you have no idea what it's like in the day. I mean, I am surviving. If they get something to eat that day and are clean and are rested, then it was a win.
Right.
Like the house is the last thing on my mind. It is not my priority, but it was yours. For me, my kids were my priority. And you can't have it both ways. You cannot have 3 little kids and have a clean house unless somebody else is helping you. I mean, that's just the bottom line. One mom cannot do it all. But, we had to work through all that.
And I think some of it, and we didn't even realize, is the pressure I was going through, putting on myself. And then I was trying to release that pressure
and putting
it onto you. And, the more pressure a person has, the more pressure they put on other people around them.
That's exactly right.
And so, we didn't recognize that either. I mean, these were new experiences of financial pressure,
Right.
new experience of kid pressure, new
Yeah.
experience of all these things, a spouse pressure.
It was a rough time.
It was a new environment. And so, yeah, it was very explosive sometimes between us both being outspoken people. And now
This is where our passion came in and really
Yeah.
that really backfired, having two very passionate shall we say speakers.
shouters.
That was, I mean, just being real, like we could fight, man. We could fight. And it was heartbreaking. The aftermath was heartbreaking because kids,
Kids. Well, and even at that, I mean, like the hormones you were going through pregnancy or after pregnancy, or I would say this, I mean, I was just insensitive to you and everything you were going through. It was, I felt like I was constantly fighting against you rather than we were partners.
Right.
And I think that was the first 7 years. So, when we dated, we were partners. When we became married, we were fighting intensely for our own beliefs after that 7 years build up.
I'm gonna insert, when we were dating, I was a child. I was a kid. I basically just was fine with what I was like, oh, his ideas are fantastic. This is great.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think there was any, expectation. Like I didn't really, there was no house payment, there was no
we
kids.
weren't in real life.
Right.
We were not in real life yet.
Right.
I was being taken care of. Everything was good. Everything was golden. I mean, there was no real life responsibility yet. Very little up to that point for me.
Right. You were still living at the house. Right.
You definitely had a good idea of responsibility, a lot more than I, which was why I was okay with being married young. I mean, I knew I was marrying someone that knew what the heck he was doing in life, Right. I mean, you had lived and you understood responsibility, but I just really didn't. And I mean, that time that we're talking about with 3 little kids, we hadn't even had our 4th one yet, but the 3 were so little, and the financial and the crashing, I was crumbling, absolutely crumbling. I mean, I was crying every day, and I really thought we were over. I mean, no kidding. I started going out. I started for the first time in my whole life. I didn't in high school and all that. I just never had a go out late at night phase. Like that was just not, part of who I was. But I was crumbling under all this weight, and I was putting pressure on myself, and I felt pressure from you. And so I started going to release that pressure, really dancing was my favorite thing.
You were twerking.
I don't know how to twerk.
Twerking for dollars.
I was just having fun, and that season was short-lived because, when that's a dangerous situation when you're not happy at home and you go out. Man, this is like the realest real right here. Do we know we were getting this real today? It was dangerous because, other people don't care about your marriage. They don't care about your family, your 3 little kids at home. They just see a person that's hurting and broken, and they're like, I'm going to move in right there, And that's an easy target. So real quick, I realized that either it was time to, as Joe McGee says, build a marriage, or, the way I was going to end a marriage, So, I'm so thankful that God is so good because, because I'm so glad that we came back together and decided to build it. And it was really both of us, I just think we came to a point where we were like, we said it out loud. We were like, this is the end. I actually remember the point we got in a fight so bad. and I told you to leave. And the next day I just texted you or called you, I don't remember, and I was like, this marriage is over unless we go get help and we work on it and we build this marriage. And you were like, I agree, let's go. So I'm so thankful for Pastor Dale, and we made an appointment and we just started meeting with him. And we just started going in that direction where, hey, let's work together. Let's talk about this stuff together. Let's learn how to communicate together. I even remember one of those first meetings where, he actually had us read something, and the next time we came in, we talked about it. And when I came back in, I said, for me, what stuck out was that I recognize I need you. I mean, I need you. I need you in my life. I'm not here to do this by myself. I'm not here to be a parent by myself. I'm not here to be in a marriage by myself. I need you in my life. And, to recognize that in somebody, I think is so outside of ourself, like I'm not trying to be this independent, live a life over here while you live a life over here. No, we're together. We're in this together. You're my ride or die. You're my best friend. You're my, and I even remember I was saying all this stuff to you, and it was like our second meeting in, and Pastor Dale's like, I mean, what am I, he's like, what am I even here for?
I know. I think the first or second meeting, it was, huge merge and difference, And I think we forget that we've built habits. And the habits are fighting, and so everything escalates quickly to an argument. And once you do that step and you go into that meeting with somebody else and you start talking about logistics and you start talking about each other,
and you start
viewing things differently.
You've laid your garbage aside, and you've taken down the walls. Like, you're vulnerable. You're
right.
Very vulnerable. And that vulnerability is so important. And as the person that you're with is vulnerable, it's really important to listen. Look them in the face and listen. I remember when we were at the Clemmer thing, I loved when we did that exercise where we looked at each other and said, how can I love you? Not what means love to me. What does love mean to you? Tell me all the ways. Tell me the ways I can love you. When I do this, does that make you feel loved? Tell me the things I can do to make you feel loved. Tell me the things I can say to make you feel loved. Tell me the way I can hold you that makes you feel loved. Tell me the ways to love you, because we all receive and think about love differently than each other. And also, I just want to tell everybody, what you feel, whatever that is for you in your 20s, is not going to be the way. Right. I mean, I'm 36 years old, and the way I there's times when, Ben, you take the kids or, you just like, hey guys, let's just go out. You could take them grocery shop. And I'm like, oh my God, I love you so much. Like, I'm so in love with you. Like, I feel your love in those moments when I don't know that necessarily that was your, you weren't thinking like, I'm a love. Maybe you were, I don't know. But it's just, you just start feeling, I've talked to my friends, my best friends that are moms and stuff, and they'll say, my God, when he does the dishes, oh my God. It's just like all the love, all that I am, you can have. Like, and that's the thing. When you take the time to go out of and it's hard. We all got jobs, lives, kids, busyness. When you take the time to go love your person in the way that they feel it, pick up the house, make dinner, bring home dinner, pay for someone to come clean the house for them, massage their feet, touch them, hold them. When you take the time to do the things that lights their fire, you are going to get love back, because that's what happens when you really hone in on that. How can I love you? And you take the time and love them in that way. The result of that is I will give you everything I have, all my love, all that I am, intimacy, sex, my hopes, dreams, desires, thoughts, just talking and laughing together. All that I am, I will give to you when I feel that love, you know? And that's how when we get loved by God, when we let him love us, when we enter in that relationship with him as a father, and we feel so deeply, we feel loved in our deepest inner parts, the places that no one can touch. When he loves us that completely, the reaction out of that is we go in love, because you can't feel that loved without going and giving it back out. You can't get that open and vulnerable without saying to that person or showing to them, you can have all that I am because I'm so in love with you, you know? And taking the time to really hear each other on finances, on kids, on parenting, on jobs and careers and time management, really taking the time to talk and listen to the other person. Like, lay yourself down. Lay your own belief stuff down. Lay your right and wrong down and listen to what they're saying. Just like calm down, like Taylor Swift said. Just calm down.
Well, you know, it's interesting. Even in just talking to you, I'm kind of seeing two different scenarios. You know, from the time that we got married to the 7-year mark, it was demand, what will you do for me? The expectation of what you'll do or how you'll do it or stuff like that. And then from the 7-year point, then what can I do to bless them, serve them, love them? And then now, because you did that action, you've opened up the doors to love that you could never ask for or demand or expect.
That's right.
You know, like you were saying, you know, it does me yelling at you to do the dishes produce an open well of love for me? Absolutely not.
No.
Now,
that's gonna be a no.
What if I do those same dishes? What if I do those same dishes, you know, for you? What will that produce? An over amount of what love?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, I felt, because I didn't understand the process, I felt like I was in competition with you to get what I felt you needed to do in our relationship. You know, and I think sometimes we do that, like, you know, a little snarky, you know, like, hey, what about this idea? And you're, you know, snarky, you know, about things. But once we got to the point where we said, let's start talking about, I remember this. It was kind of where we came out of one of these meetings and we just said, let's just maintain our marriage, our life, our relationship, and work on one small thing.
Yeah.
You know, like we were at the point where it was like, we're not going to conquer the world in our marriage.
Yeah, not everything at one time.
Let's just maintain a level of respect and honor at the minimal level, but let's work on one thing. And, you know, and it took a while because we were so used to the habit of yelling that when we would talk about the one thing, it would last about 5 minutes and then it would start to escalate. And I'd be like, whoa.
Well, and I'll say why. Because we were carrying into that conversation already offended. We entered in the conversation offended about past conversations. I mean, it was already... oh, here we go down this road again. And I already know how he's hurt me and he's said things about this already. And he's already made me feel low in this area. So I'm entering in this conversation with that mindset. So it's not even going to take much to escalate from there. And it's really difficult. It's really difficult to enter in and lay all that offense down. And recognize that a whole bunch of that you've built up in your head. You know, the other person, I mean, we stew on things. I mean, we've been stewing since the last conversation. We've been stewing
for the last 7 years.
Yeah, for the last 7 years of the same things. Right. And so it was like, okay, take all that out and give the person grace. They're trying to change. They're trying to be different. Help them to realize how I feel about this situation, and if they don't respond good to how I'm feeling, give them grace. Like, it's okay.
Well, if we even just define it down to cleaning, you know, we would say something and I'd bring something up about the subject, and you would be, but I'm doing so much better.
Yeah.
And like, I wouldn't take that consideration in. And I'd be like, yeah, but you know.
But you could be here.
Right. And then you would get mad because I'd put that but, which would put the more demand on you, you know, and that's where you'd say like the level of expectation was always there.
Well, and you don't have a gift you have like zero gifting and encouragement. so you
good to know.
So you'll come in. No, I've told you that lots of times. It's okay. It's just who you are. I mean, at this point in my life, I've recognized it.
I'm task oriented.
Right. So you'd come in to us, and I'm relationship oriented. So I'm like, I gave him all my love. I cleaned the house today. I worked harder than I've ever worked on this situation. And you'd come in and it would all be about the task. And you'd be like, okay, so now you'd be like, well, let's move higher, the next task up, because we did this, now we can move to the next level.
Right.
And I would be like, what the actual hell? Like, I just like buzzed my butt.
I'm here and I'm getting ready to go down, not higher.
Like, I had my arms out. I was like, man, this is going to be a hug. And he's going to be like, you're amazing. And thank you for doing all this. And it was like, none of that. So
fail.
But you know, also, that was immature of me to always need a pat on the back for every little task. That was immaturity. I mean, that's what kids need. Look at this, Mom. I did this great big thing, you know? And it's like, that was me. Like, I did this great big thing. And you're like, hello, I've been an adult for 20 years. Like, I've been doing that thing that you just accomplished. I've been doing for a really long time, you know? And so that was part of it, you know?
Well, I mean, and I remember that because, like, I would mow the yard and, you know, for my mom or something, and I'd be like, man, look at what a great job I'm doing, you know? And I'm like, I'm going to make lots of money. And I'd get done. She'd give me 50 cents. I'd be like,
what? That was amazing.
Right.
It's like the best yard ever.
The lines? There's no you know.
Maybe you should go look again.
Yeah. So how often are we disappointed when we're thinking and building ourselves up?
Yeah, we build up a reaction that we're ready for when that's just not the other person. I mean, that's just not who you are. And really, it's okay for me to now recognize that and not expect you to be that. You know, I don't need you to be my hooray encourager. You know, first of all, I can be that for myself, but also that's something I feel like we need to find in the Lord, because he is that, you know, and which we all know that's a whole nother subject, you know, finding your worth and your love and your confidence from, you know, our Father, instead of trying to get that from your spouse, because that's unfair. It's unfair to put that on another person to make you have all these feelings inside. That's not what they're designed to be. Right. They're not designed to be that for you.
Well, and you know, so that's one thing is analyzing what the other person really is.
Yeah.
Analyzing yourself and those expectations, seeing if there's adjustment that we could each make about the subject. I think that was the problem is cleaning is a subject, but you're a person.
Right.
I'm a person, you know,
yeah,
but like I made you about cleaning, you know, and that was kind of the thing is well, which is a task, you know, so here's a task, but you know, I didn't hold you uniquely as an individual. I based you down to the task. So you're not my great other half wife who can do all these amazing things. I was focusing on the tasks that you don't do.
Right. Because my gifting was in relationship, which I was doing. I was in relationship with our 4 kids.
Right.
That was my priority, and that does not mean. And 4 kids means the opposite of clean. Right. I mean the exact opposite. But that's not what I cared about. I cared about them and their hearts and how they were being shaped. You know. So you know that you did switch to where you recognize that, and I think what's important for people to understand was. The answer was as simple as for this particular subject, was you just, at some point, you stopped putting all that on me. I mean, you never mentioned the house, what it looked like, stuff being clean. You didn't talk to me about it. You didn't make me feel like any certain way about it or bad. I mean, you just began to accept me for my gifts and talents and what I do, you know, what I am more bent towards instead of what I'm not. You know, you stop putting that pressure on me. And I don't know that everybody recognizes that they're doing that to their spouse. They're trying to make them into something they're not. They're trying to put that pressure on them to be something are not meant to be. Not to say that there can't be a solution in that area, that there can't be improvement, but like you said, there's a way you're going to get there, and there's a way you're not, And it really took you, the minute you began to just love me and accept me for who I am, and you stopped putting on all this stuff that I wasn't, is the minute I stopped, I started to feel like I am enough. I am enough for you. I am enough for me. I'm enough of a wife. I'm enough of a mom. I got this, The minute you took all that off and just, we just started accepting each other for who we are. And that's hard sometimes because, sometimes I'd get a little yelly, and I still do, and you're like, why are you yelling about all this stuff that's not been done? Or, because I start feeling like I need help or whatever, and I start, we start putting it back on each other. But for the most part, I think we've done really well at learning to you're just going to have to let some stuff go. You're going to have to walk into a mess and be like, if you need to take a deep breath, maybe walk back outside, walk back inside to not say something to the person,
Yeah, I think for me, it's, I love our life. You, our 4 kids, I love that more than the clean house. I love that more than no markers on the wall or, I think I had to realize if I shifted my love, then I shift my expectation.
Yeah.
If I shift my love towards the time we spend on the couch together versus everybody do a chore now, and there's balance for me. Obviously I do stuff with the kids as far as chores more than you might, and it's a little strange because back to opposites attract, and we all deal with things differently. I will tell the kids to do the chores. You just do their chores, So
I've been doing it since before they were born,
right.
And I've been doing it when they were babies. So, it is important to give kids responsibility as they grow and everybody take care of the house together. I recognize that, right. And I do have them do stuff. But yeah, it's when I've been doing it, for all these years. Sometimes it's just like every mom understands that. Sometimes it's just easier to do it yourself. That's a total mom thing,
right? But
it's going to get done better, and it's going to get done faster and more efficient.
But that's back not the best way. The thing where then you still feel that responsibility and pressure of the day and stuff like that. So I think it's just a constant balance of learning. Yeah. Why am I under a lot of pressure or anxiety? Oh, I just did a bunch of the kids' chores. Yeah. Or was it because my husband yelled at me because we're having a dinner party? Or was it, I think, and I know here's the thing is we don't take time to step back and analyze properly with grace and love and say,
check out the situation.
Right.
Check out the feelings.
A one-time thing, not a consistent every day, every hour type thing. If it happens once a month, once every 6 months, once a year, holidays are coming up. And so you got where somebody might cook a small dinner is now going to cook a dinner for 30 people. There's going to be some crazy that hits the door, So, there's no sense in fighting that crazy at that moment because it's going to go away, So there's things that are very temporal in your marriage, and then there's things that are longer term. Again, don't try to fix all of the long term junk at once and throw it down. I think in some good practices is how can you make the temporal things successful? Practice making these Christmas time, buying presents, finances. If you've never talked about finances before, and how you are, we're getting ready to spend thousands of dollars on Christmas presents, and we're kind of analyzing. All right, well, who do we buy this? Well, what do we buy here? Well, we're getting ready to travel, for vacation and stuff, and so all of this adds on, and so, but it's not a month to month conversation. Our finances are a little bit different on a month-to-month basis. So we just encourage you guys to don't throw it all out there thinking you're going to get every conversation today nailed down. in 1 hour.
I mean, yeah, we're 15 years in to this thing, you know. And, and you're learning each other.
Even, you know, how many times have we had cleaning conversations? You know,
too many.
Well, we had a lot that we fought about. And then, you know, how many times did we have to dissolve the anticipation and expectation and cleaning? And, you know, we've even since that time been through 3 or 4 different cleaning people, you know, so then we're constantly talking about it. And then it's like, you know, now we have basketball season with kids and they're using more laundry. And so now we have a laundry problem, or we have people living with us who are guests, you know. And so one time we had 1 girl and then 2 girls. And then so just, I think, creating a platform to be able to talk openly, honestly, calm, and not that you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, not being offended.
The situation is wrong.
Yeah.
Or the situation needs to be handled.
Yeah, like stop trying to take it personally. Go for the solution. Stop taking everything so personally as an attack on your person or your character, you know. It's not always a personal attack. Sometimes you're just trying to figure out how to move forward in that area.
So we really appreciate you guys listening. Ben and Liz here. We're going to keep on the chit chat going. So until next time.